Here, about 1,000 miles from Denver, is another community hospital program in pulmonary rehabilitation, organized by Mary Burns. Mary asked me to come participate in her program about 10 years ago, and I noticed some similarities and some differences, but the basic concepts of pulmonary rehabilitation were here, and I think you're going to be excited to see how Mary and her staff provide pulmonary rehabilitation at the Little Company of Mary Hospital in Torrance. So let's go inside and meet Mary. Mary, from the very beginning, when I first visited your program, I was impressed with the component parts. How you teach pharmacologic therapy, pursed-lip breathing, systemic exercise, oxygen in selected patients. How do you do all these things?
Well, the first thing we do on the first day is get them started out with the thing they're most interested in, and that's how to breathe. And we start them out with pursed lip breathing. Many of these things we start them out with in the interview. We start out by showing them a little bit about proper pursed lip breathing and talking to them about pacing and not holding their breath so that they can get a head start on the class. We're going to use the oximeter now to help you with your breathing techniques. We want to show you that with good pursed lip breathing, you'll be able to get these numbers, blow up the numbers on the oxygen, on the oximeter, to the same number that you would have if you were using oxygen. Betsy's going to coach you in your pursed lip breathing, and I want you to watch this oximeter and blow the numbers up there. Okay? Betsy, you want to work with them on that? Watch your breathing now.
Okay, George, remember to keep your shoulders down and keep your shoulders as relaxed as possible. Then feeling my hand on your diaphragm. Take a deep breath in, making my diaphragm raise as you breathe in. Exhale very slowly through pursed lips. Put all the air out before you take your next breath in. There you go, you hit 90.
Joan, you were on disability for about 9 years. Haven't you been on disability for about
84.
that long?
Yeah.
And am I exaggerating when I say that you stopped and gasped for air leaning against the wall when you first started rehab? Do you remember back that far?
I remember, in fact, I remember Jackie seeing me in the, almost outside the door, and she said, boy, I know where you belong, and all I was doing is standing, but I was breathing so hard. So, yeah, it was difficult getting anywhere.
So would you like to tell us a little bit more about some of the other problems that you had? I see Joan now as being one of the very active member of our community. She comes in and does volunteer work. She rides her bike to the doctor's office. What about the other things in your everyday life, Joan? You've indicated that your roommate's a lot happier with you now.
Listen, I've gotten my friends back. I was really, I think before I came into rehab, I was very depressed. I was overweight. I couldn't do anything, and it was the harder I tried, the less I could do, and I kept trying to do things, and I couldn't make a bed without gasping, and taking a shower was a real big effort. Anything physical. Walking to the bathroom was, I would gasp for air. It's difficult for me to remember myself that way because, in fact, you know, people will remind me of it. My friends will say, "My gosh, what a difference in you!" You know, it's just unbelievable. And I really enjoy living, and I think I'm just a very, very lucky person to have come to this program.
7 years ago this month, the 29th to be exact, I came into PEP. And was I a willing candidate? I was desperate. I had retired from my teaching profession, and I couldn't seem to get a grasp on life. I would get up in the mornings and sit on the edge of the bed and say, something wrong with me, but I don't know what it is. And I seemed to be doing that a great deal, and I was very puzzled. But Dr. Chang decided I had COPD. chronic obstructive pulmonary disease. And I was happy because I had a disease and I could do something about it. So he told me to get into this program, which I did. I started walking 2 minutes at a time. That was all I was able to walk. I could not walk from here across halfway across this room when I first came to the program. But I was told, Mary told me, to walk 4 or 5 times a day for just 2 minutes and to increase it a little, which I did. I started in my family room, then I added my living room, then I went out around my house, and finally I made the streets. I started on the 30th of May. I first then, about a week later, I was walking for 17 minutes a day. And I kept a record. These are my records. And I want to tell you, on the 28th of June, on the 28th, I walked 65 minutes from 2 minutes. And on the 29th, I walked 60. But listen to this. On the 2nd of July, I walked 70 minutes. I only walked 3.5 blocks and back, but it was 70 minutes non-stop. That's the key. It's not speed, it's endurance. I was so elated. This program works. But you get a lot of other information. You get information about nutrition, about pacing yourself, about climbing stairs. I couldn't climb stairs. So I practiced hard and worked hard, and I would come and speak to the new classes. And once I was up to walking 4 miles a day. So a patient told me that the class did not believe me, that I was walking 4 miles a day. And of course, that's a challenge. So I said, okay. To myself, I said, how do I prove this? Some way I've got to show them I can do this. So I thought, I'll walk the 10K in Manhattan Beach, which is very hilly. And you know, I was ahead for quite a while. I was in front of the winner. He came up and passed me, but I have a picture of him passing me. At the end, I got a medal. I came in 3rd or 4th in the 65 and over group. My grandson came back and they ran it, and they came and escorted me across the finish line, but they didn't get a medal. So I wear this very proudly. This is what PEP did for me. I am again working with people who have learning disabilities, with people who need help to get their high school equivalency programs. I'm volunteering for that. And I'm working in my garden again, as I think you can see. I have a young, active puppy with whom I keep up, and she keeps me busy and makes me feel young. And I think for being 76, I'm doing just wonderfully. Come on. Big girl.
And these poor people so often have been told that there's nothing that can be done to help them, and they lead these lives of isolation and depression and despair, and they have the reputation of being depressed and irritable and difficult to get along with. But who wouldn't be if they couldn't breathe? But you stop and think about it. If you can only walk 1 minute, you're in jail. These people have been condemned to life sentences in jail. They're tied by this 1 minute tether, or 2 minutes, or 3 minutes that they can walk, and then they can't go any further than that. And you open up the world to them again. They're again able to be part of the human race instead of being sentenced to almost solitary confinement. So it's no wonder that their personalities change, and you see such dramatic differences in how they feel and how they act. And that is the reward that all of us that work in pulmonary rehab receive.
I've been having these attacks periodically a couple of times a year for several years, and I didn't know what it was. So when I get back to the doctor, he tells me that I have COPD, and I had been a member of the South Bay Barbershop chapter for quite a number of years before this happened. And so I had to give it up. I let my membership lapse for about 4 years. And I wasn't getting any better. And I asked the doctor, I says, isn't there something else I can do? And he said, well, there's a pulmonary program going on over at Little Company of Mary Hospital, and maybe they can help you. So I enrolled, and I went through the program, and they taught me how to breathe, and I've been singing ever since.
Never to return again. So goodbye. Where thee fell. Where thee what? Fare thee well. Arrivederci. Goodbye, my Coney Island. Goodbye, my Coney Island. Goodbye, my Coney Island.
My particular respiratory problem is a COPD problem. It's called bronchiectasis. Before rehab, I struggled, and it was before they found that I needed this oxygen. And once I got on oxygen and became acquainted with the rehab educational program at Little Company of Mary, I was really finding it very difficult to get much accomplished in what I wanted to do. But once I got in their training program, it just made all the difference in the world. I was able to have a whole new philosophy as far as what you can do during the day and what you can't do, and I ended up doing a lot more than I ever thought I could. I walked 2 miles 3 or 4 days a week, and I worked down here at the nursery for 3 or 4 afternoons a week, so I stay pretty active, and I also do some community service work too.
And I start seeing families become families again, instead of one spouse being the caretaker for the other and the other person being angry because they're being put in this helpless role. We're dealing with adults, and adults like to be self-sufficient. And these things that we take so for granted in life are the things that we can give back to them, things that we don't even think of people not having. So that's what's so, that's what the reward of pulmonary rehab is.
Oh, goodbye, my Coney Island baby. Farewell, my own true love, my honey. I'm gonna go away and leave you. Never see you any. Never gonna see you any. I'm gonna sail upon that ferry boat, never to return again. So goodbye. Farewell. So long forever. Bum bum. Goodbye, my Coney Island. Goodbye, my Coney Island. Goodbye, my Coney Island. We all fall for some girl in Christmas Eve. Some girl in